Hey you guys, welcome to Localite. As always, it's great to have you. I'm John Compton, and with me in the studio today is David Brandt. And David is an illustrator and animator. So David, thanks for coming in. I know you're on a big project, deadline and all of that, and you still made time to come in and sit down with us, so we appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to just start off with where did the interest in animation and illustration come from? Like, were you a kid that always sketched stuff?
Well, the illustration part I drew as a small kid, and you know, I don't really believe in innate talent for art. I was just given encouragement to do it, and I kind of ate that up, you know. I don't know what if I saw. My mom would disagree. She's always trying to find who in my family did I get the talent from, because there's no obvious person. But you know, I think people can be good at a lot of different things, and it's just, you know, getting people. If you start saying you're good at that, then you're just going to keep doing. It was just positive feedback. Yeah. So I drew for, you know, all my free time when I was a kid.
And so then you went on to, that's actually what you studied in college then, right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, going to college was a shock, because when I was growing up, people said, "Oh, Dave, you're so good." And when I I was in junior high, and people said, "Oh, you're the best artist to come through here." And I go, "Oh yeah, cool." And in high school, you know, there were very, I mean, I thought there were other people that could draw good in high school, but it was easy to, you know, to stand out. And I get to college, and suddenly, it almost like people didn't really care if I could draw good or not. First of all, fine art school, being able to draw good is not, at least at that time, I might disagree. I think being able to draw good is important, and I think the really successful artists, you know, can draw, even if it may not look like they can't, but they can, and it's very, very deliberate what they're doing. But the thing that I found in college that was important was concept, you know, and it was sort of new. Concept was a new concept to me, and I was going, "Whoa, you mean I can't just draw good? That's not good enough? That's
not enough?"
I go, "No,
yeah,
no." In fact, it was just at that time when I went to college, conceptual art was very important.
Okay.
You know, and it's almost like they didn't even care if you could draw. It was weird.
Yeah. You're like, all of that time that people told me how great I was, and now you don't even really care. So, What about animation? So how did those two link up together in college?
Well, I actually never made a conscious effort to pursue animation. When I was in college, I had to do an internship, and so I asked one of my professors if he had any ideas, and he said, "Well, I've got this friend who is an independent animator. He lives in this little town on the river, Mississippi River. It was called Fountain City. It was the cutest little town. He lived in an old brewery that was left over from Prohibition. You know, every town had its own brewery. Well, this town had two, even though it was a miniature little town. And the buildings were still standing. They were really cool little buildings, and it was carved into the side of the Mississippi riverbank, which is all limestone, and so it kept cool there in the winter where they kept their casts and stuff. So underneath his house was this cave. Well, anyways, I went there and I stayed with him, and he was just an old hippie that was doing independent animation, and he worked at a community college there, and so I spent a couple months with him. And that sort of gave me like my initiation into that. When I got out of college, I moved back to Minneapolis, and he had told me about an animation company that he had worked for, and so I was just trying to find any kind of work that was related to art. And so I called them, and I got hooked up on it. So I learned animation I didn't actually ever take a course in animation. I've learned it from other animators and from working in it.
So was that kind of your first, I don't know, like big gig, or sort of the point where it sort of launched your your career as like I
well,
could actually?
I'm still kind of waiting for that big gig that launches my career.
Really? I guess in some senses everybody's sort of waiting for that, right?
Yeah. I'm realizing, thinking I had to admit some years ago that that's really not the way it works, and because for the longest time I kept thinking, well, I'm going to do this job, I'm going to spend, all my energy and, throw everything out the window and work on this, and I'll get recognized as being really good, and I'll just take off.
And then it'll all be
there.
cake after that.
Yeah. It's never cake. It's It's a hard business. I think I got a pretty good start early on with this company, but it never got easy. It never did.
What were you doing? Like, what kinds of things were you illustrating or animating?
Well, when I started in the dark room.
Okay.
There was no computer animation then at all. I mean, the closest thing we had was an animation stand called an Oxberry. Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, there's people that are in animation now that don't even know what that is because
Really?
it's just obsolete. But that was run by a computer.
Okay.
And it controlled it. But we had to make all the art. It was called motion graphics back then, and there's still stuff we call motion graphics, but that's done on a computer now. But it involved a lot of darkroom art, and since I had some photography in college, I understood that, and so I was just sloshing big film negs through chemicals, but they did do some painted backgrounds for their cartoon stuff, and I got asked to help with that once in a while, and I knew nothing about commercial art. I didn't know the difference. When I went to college, like I said, I was kind of shocked by what college was, and I kind of learned that there was a difference. But when I got out of college, I had to learn commercial art if I wanted to work in it.
Yeah.
And somebody showed me, the guy there sort of became my mentor. He thought I had some talent, and so he showed me how to work the airbrush, which is another obsolete tool.
Yeah, an airbrush. I've heard of those.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But you know how like as kids and stuff, we always would like draw on our textbooks, like this little figurine, and then in the next page it'd be slightly altered, and then the next page slightly, and then you'd flip through it, and it would make it look like it would move. I mean, was that really how animation, and was that done? Was it really like step by step by step, and then it was all put together in like a fluid motion?
Well, it's still done. It's still done that way.
But it's all computerized now, right?
It's all computerized, but computer is a tool, just like a pencil. When people say, "Oh, don't they have computers that do that now?" Well, did anybody ever say that to Rembrandt? Oh, don't they have paintbrushes that do that now?
Right.
People knew that you had to hold a paintbrush, and the paintbrush was useless unless somebody picked it up that knew how to use it.
Right.
So
very good point.
Computer will just sit there until you turn it on, and there's no start animation button on the computer. There's no finish animation, or make this look good button. You have to do that. It's not that computers have made anything easier. It's just that we can do way more than we used to be able to do.
Yeah.
But in fact, I think it's harder.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's gotten so complicated. It just sort of blows my mind.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Well, technology was supposed to make all of our lives easier, right?
Yeah, it's just gotten complicated.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I want to talk more about that when we come back from the break, because you're talking about being in the dark room, and then now like 3D graphics, and all, and this whole thing with every movie you go to anymore, it's like there's a 3D version of it and stuff, and what you think about all of that, and what your involvement is, and all of those things. So I want to talk about that, you guys. When we come back, we'll be right back with David Brandt. Don't go anywhere.